Good evening, and welcome to the first Putnam Valley Board meeting of the year 2017. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I hope it is a very happy new year for everyone. I'd like to start the meeting. Resolved to approve the December 17th, 2015 business meeting minutes of the Board of Education.
I'll second that.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Okay, we're going to go right into presentations. And our very first is one close to all of our hearts, the Putnam County Community That Cares Coalition.
I just want to say that Putnam Valley schools are privileged to belong to this coalition and work together on behalf of our students. The leadership of the coalition has been incredible in providing opportunities for us to assist, and we thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. And my name is Kristen McConnell, and I co-chair the Putnam CTC Coalition, and we have committees in every town, school district throughout Putnam County. And like Dr. Wells said, we've been very active throughout Putnam Valley for quite a number of years now. So I want to thank Dr. Wells and the Board of Education, and Bruce will introduce himself.
My name is Bruce Kelly, and I'm the coalition coordinator for Putnam CTC, as well as all other 5 of the committees.
So the presentation is an overview of the Putnam Valley Central School District Prevention Needs Assessment Survey results. I'll refer to it as the PNA as we go over it. This was administered in 2016, so we're going to get right into it. The survey includes students grades 8 through 12, and nearly 4,000 students throughout Putnam County completed the survey. We do have all of the districts on board for this since 2005. The survey is conducted in classes that all students take, such as physical education and English, and it's a passive consent, which means that each district, their school, sends a letter home to the parents indicating the survey when it will take place, and it gives the parents the opportunity to opt the child out. So just a quick overview about the confidentiality, validity, and reliability. This stuff is important. Students can skip questions. There's about 125 questions on the survey, so they're not required to complete this survey. They're assured it's confidential, voluntary, and anonymous. And surveys are eliminated when the respondents are determined to be dishonest, and there's a few ways that's done. They either didn't answer enough validity questions, or they were not honest in their responses. So the final question asks how honest they were, and if they indicate not honest at all, their survey is eliminated. There's other questions. There's a fictitious drug. If they answer they use that at all, their survey is eliminated. And there's also several other questions that are asked in a couple different ways. If they're inconsistent, their survey is eliminated. So we feel that the surveys that remain at the end are evaluated. We feel the data is strong. Okay.
All right, well, what you're going to see now is a bunch of graphs. These are dealing with 30-day use. One of the indicators, the core measures that we always like to check to see what's going on. And you can see we have it from, I think, from 2008 when we first started with these the PNA surveys. And as you can see, it's gone up slightly a bit in the 12th grade, a lot in the 10th grade. But this is not, if you look at the county one, which is on the right-hand side, this is common throughout, not just Putnam Valley. It's throughout Putnam County, Westchester County, New York State. So we've seen an increase, and what this helps us do is, in the coalition, is we try to work with the school, as well as community members, on doing some type of campaigns and activities to try to reduce these numbers.
So, and one of the things just to think about as we go through, if you look at the colors and the key at the bottom from 2008 up into 2016, so for instance, in the 8th graders are the yellow. So in 2014, you see there, if you follow them over to 10th grade, you can see they've gone from about 5% to about a little over 30%. So if you follow them, it'll be interesting to follow the current group that was surveyed in 2016, because as you can see, their past 30-day use in 8th grade of alcohol was much lower than previous years. So the next one, like Bruce said, we'll talk about past 30-day use, just because lifetime use doesn't always give us an accurate snapshot. So as you can see here, we're actually really pleased with the results for Putnam Valley. The 10th graders have gone down significantly. We've seen overall in Putnam County a rise with tobacco, and Bruce will talk a little bit about that in a minute, about the trends. And we were very, very pleased to see the numbers go down dramatically in 10th grade. And even though 12th grade increased, it's still down from previous years, as you can see. I mean, obviously, it's up a little bit from 2014, but as you can see from the previous years, a significant decrease.
Well, what's really happened with the 30-day use with tobacco is we did a really good job with getting young people not to smoke cigarettes and tobacco products. But what happened then, we had the advent of the e-cigarette and vapes. Most of young people smoke vapes, you know, they're those mods, and they have the different flavors. And basically what that is, it has nicotine in it. It doesn't have all those other cancerous agents that are in a tobacco product. However, it's sort of like training wheels, because they get it, they have the nicotine, they get addicted to the nicotine, and then they move on. And we're seeing an uptick now in young people now going back to smoking tobacco products. So that's probably why you see the 12th grade, because they're the older ones and they've probably been exposed to it much more than the younger ones.
So what we're thinking perhaps in the 10th grade is whatever they're getting in health education and other prevention messages throughout the school is working, because of how significantly low their number is within your district and also throughout the county. Past 30-day use of marijuana. So we can see, unfortunately, an increase in these numbers, and you'll see that you're not alone throughout Putnam County and New York State. We've seen ever since 2012, when unfortunately there's been a lot of mixed messages about medical marijuana, and I know that's a whole different discussion, and we won't go into that today. But the main message that young people are getting is that marijuana is medicine, it's safe, it's not unhealthy. And so as a result, they use. There's a direct correlation between the perception of risk of harm, which means that someone believes something is not harmful to themselves, and the use of that substance. And we have that risk factor laid out in a slide that's coming up, but I just bring that up here because not only do they believe it's not unhealthy, but on the legal side of things, marijuana is, if you were caught smoking marijuana, for instance, by the police, it's a violation, which is a fine. You appear in court and it's a fine that you pay, and maybe some community service. My comparison is if you steal a shopping cart from the grocery store, it's a Class A misdemeanor. So we look at these laws, and we're not looking to punish young people, but there's not a lot out there to prevent them from using marijuana. Do you want to
What's
add to
really
that?
been happening a lot too is I talked to a lot of kids in the county, and it's easier, most of them say it's easier to get marijuana than it is to get alcohol. So it's really been, it's revved up because of the medical marijuana, and now as of yesterday, 8 states have full recreational marijuana use now, and Massachusetts is the closest one to us right now. But that's one of the things the coalition is working on this year. We're trying to work on a thing where it's going to be a two-part. We're going to deal with the young people and deal with the parents. And with the parents, we're going to deal with the brain research, because 10 years ago there was no brain research about how drugs, alcohol affect the brain. We're going to try to talk to the parents, because what you'll see as we go along is that some parents are accepting of this. Some parents still smoke marijuana. So we're going to try to do different workshops and campaigns to try to get the education out there, because that's really what the coalition does. We're an information clearinghouse.
Right. And we're data driven. So what Bruce is talking about is when we see these numbers as a result of the survey, we then select different strategies and programs to implement based on what the data is showing us. So in this case, we're going to use brain health and the fact that a young person's brain isn't fully developed till they're 25 to address this issue of marijuana, because we feel that that might stick, especially with young people. Binge drinking. So binge drinking is a concern. It's, for those of you that don't know, it's when, for a male, 5 or more drinks in a row in a period of time, and I think 4 or more for females. So this is a risky behavior that can often lead to alcohol poisoning and other unhealthy decisions. And I pointed out that in 2016, for 8th grade, it was 0. So we like that. I didn't want you to think that I left out the number. And then we are seeing, you know, a slight increase there from the 2014 to 2016 data. Still lower than from when we started doing this in 2008. I like to point that out because sometimes we will see a slight, you know, increase or decrease, but if you look back to when we began doing this, we are still lower than that, especially for the 12th graders. So we were pleased to see that. And again, we continue to address alcohol. What we like to point out is that while the heroin and prescription drug epidemic is very significant and it's taking people's lives, by far for young people, alcohol and marijuana and even tobacco are much more of an issue for young people. So we always address alcohol and binge drinking. Do you want to mention? No. Okay. And then this is an overview of the past 3 to use for other drugs, and you can see these are very low. I know they're actually a little hard to read over
they're
here.
amphetamines, sedatives, other narcotics, and inhalants.
Inhalants. So, and you'll see inhalants is down to 0 in 2016. This is all grades combined for this, and you can see everything is pretty much at 2% for narcotics, about same for amphetamines and sedatives is down to 1%. So these are great numbers for Putnam Valley. Perception of risk. So this is a little bit about what I was talking about earlier. This is broken out, as you can see, alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, prescription drugs. The survey, just to note, up until 2014 did not measure perception of risk for prescription drugs, but then with everything that's happening with prescription drug and opiates, they now include it. So that's why you only see data there for two years of surveys. So we want the perception of risk to be high, because if we perceive something to be risky, we're less likely to either use it or engage in that behavior. So unfortunately, well, let's start with the positive. We see alcohol is pretty much sustaining itself. It's leveled out, you know, just over 70%, and tobacco even higher than that, which is a good thing. And even prescription drugs is very high, almost 90% perceive it to be risky. And then we see marijuana, just a steady decline. All the way now, less than 50% of the students that completed the survey perceive marijuana to be risky. And that, you see from the previous slide here, it makes sense then. The marijuana numbers that we saw earlier and then the perception of risk go hand in hand.
The perception of parental disapproval. Now these, we want the numbers to go where?
We want them to be high because we
want
want
them
them
to
to disapprove.
And as you can see, when we're talking about marijuana, they're high. So they're high in all the categories we have. Alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, prescription drugs. Perception of parent disapproval is high. That means the kids, the students, perceive that their parents think it's not good. But unfortunately, with marijuana, we're still doing it.
Right.
So it's good to have this high, but maybe we have to work on some other things aside from just the perception. Maybe we have to work with the parents on getting the message out to them.
Right. So one of the things we see when we do prevention work is that there's not one fix for anything. So what Bruce is saying is a really good point. The parents have done a great job because the students, the young people think their parents disapprove, but then that means they're not getting a consistent message throughout. So maybe in the community they're not, or with their peers they're not, which is why then they would still be using. Perception of peer disapproval. So this is what the point I was just making. So again, we want these numbers to be high because if we think our friends disapprove if we use alcohol or drugs, then we're probably less likely to use them. So we have a nice increase in alcohol, tobacco, and prescription drugs. And then again, we see a small, decline for marijuana. So we're definitely, and this was not asked before 2014, which is why I don't have any other data up there. But clearly, again, we're seeing marijuana as the standing out there as, just about 60% perceiving that their friends think it's okay to use substances, marijuana specifically. Okay, do you want to do this or want me to do it? Okay. So we pulled out 3 risk factors that we've monitored since the beginning. The survey has like 40 risk factors, so we pull out 3 that are significantly higher in our county. And the first one, laws and norms favorable. What that means is young people believe or perceive that laws or community norms are favorable toward alcohol and other drugs. And then the next one is availability of drugs, which means young people perceive that it's easy to access or get drugs. And finally, parental attitudes that favor ASB, which is antisocial behavior, which is alcohol, substance abuse, and other risky behaviors. That's kids' perception that their parents feel that they have favorable attitudes toward that. So the laws and norms have gone down just slightly. We see this, like, again, back from 2010, we're seeing a decline to, and I'm having trouble seeing it, but a little less than 50%. And then availability of drugs. So we want them to perceive that it's not easy to get drugs and alcohol. So we want this to be, unfortunately, we want this to be higher. And then finally, we are seeing an increase that less kids think that their parents have favorable attitudes toward antisocial behaviors. So, you know, and again, back to laws and norms. When I talked about the shopping cart being a misdemeanor and the marijuana being a violation, that's an example of maybe a young person knows that and knows that I'm really not going to get in trouble if I smoke weed. So I mean, what's stopping me to do it? Okay, and then we like to bring up something positive, some protective factors. So we want, again, there are many protective factors in the survey. We pull out 3 that we've looked at closely over the years. The family rewards for positive behavior, which are questions that ask young people if they feel that their family, parents specifically, are you know, being positive reinforcement to them for pro-social positive behavior. And we're at, you know, just under 60% there, which is great. More than half the students feel that their parents have positive attitudes. Community rewards is also great. The number is basically the same the last 2 surveys. And school rewards, we're seeing consistency there as well. So that's great. That means that throughout Putnam Valley, the family, the community, and the school are all giving them positive messages about good behavior, because we know that we want that to be reinforced.
And what we try to do as a coalition is every year after we look at all these, we'll sit down and we have an assessment team together right now, and we're going to fashion things that so we want to pop these numbers up. We want to pump them up even higher than we are right now.
Right, right. And then we throw this slide in because in addition to what I do with the coalition, I'm the executive director at the Putnam Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, and we have a problem gambling prevention program, and it's the only one in the county, so we try to track from when we started the program in 2008 until now, and we've seen some really nice numbers here for, especially if you look at the 8th graders, significant decline in any gambling within the past year, all the way down to from 36.9% all the way down to about 12 or 13%, which is very significant. 10th graders are about the same the last 2 surveys. 12th graders have a slight increase, but it's pretty insignificant. And then overall, the county, we're seeing, like I said, a nice decline. So we just measure that because we know that for young people, gambling not only is illegal, but if they engage in a risky behavior like gambling, they're more likely to engage in other risky behaviors or use drugs.
And those high numbers were the highest bar graphs. Those are dealing with internet gambling came on. Once
Right,
internet
the gaming,
came
yeah.
on, it gave an easy avenue for young people to go on and gamble in the privacy on their laptops. Some of them would take mom and dad's credit card. So there was a time in 2008, 2010 where it was really all over the place. And now it kind of put a lid on that.
Right, right. So I think that we're headed in the right direction with that. We just like to point that out. So the age of onset, that's the age of when someone starts to use alcohol or other drugs. And there's research that shows that the younger that you start using, the more likely you are to develop a problem later on in life. So we want these numbers to be higher because then they're less likely to use. And in Putnam Valley, we've seen the age of onset has gotten later for alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. We don't put it in a table slide anymore because it caused some confusion because if people saw increases, they thought it was bad. So I have the numbers here. I'll just read them to you. For males, it is positive. It's gone up. So when we started, Bruce and I were talking about this earlier, it was down to 12, age 12, and now we're at 14.3. So we've
That's really good to go
gone
2
up.
years. Back then, kids were starting to get involved, especially with alcohol. And smoking. They were thinking about it about something. Now, when you pop it up 2 years, now 14-year-olds in 1%.
I'm not sure.
8th or 9th.
8th or 9th, as opposed to being in
7th, 6th, 7th.
Seventh.
You turn 12 in 6th grade.
But your goal is, really, the longer you can delay a kid, a child from using drugs or alcohol, the better chance of another having a problem with it. You really want to get past that 15-year-old mark. You want to go all the way up, really, to 21 if you can. But you're going to at least get them through high school without having a problem. If it's before 15, they have more or less a 50% chance that they're going to have an alcohol or drug problem right in front of you. So that's our goal. So anything you want to say?
And then just like alcohol, we've seen an increase from 12 to 14 for marijuana and for cigarettes and tobacco. Yeah, sorry, we've seen an increase from 12 to 13.7, so, which I know sounds odd, it's an age, but, so we're really pleased with increases. And then this slide, we talk about this because of a couple things. It's newer to the survey. It's only been on the last 2 surveys about alcohol and driving. So for Putnam Valley, 3.4% of the students reported having driven after drinking alcohol. And then of that, 14.8 of them reported they have been in a car with a driver who have been driving, drinking alcohol. So we broke that out by grade to show you. So we obviously want these to be 0, but when we see almost 15% of the students that took the survey saying they've been in a car with a person who's been drinking, we're very concerned. And we can, as you can see, the percentages are broken out by grade here. So we do the simulated impaired driving experience, which is a drunk and drugged driving and distracted driving program over the summer here at Putnam Valley. And you know, we do talk about these things, but then when we get these numbers, we're just concerned because we don't want to forget, like I said earlier, there's a lot of focus on prescription drugs, and we want to just also remind everybody that alcohol continues to be an issue for young people. Do you want to add anything? So that's all. I mean, we talked about a lot. I know we went very quickly through this, and this is really a summary of the survey. It is available. We've gone over it more with Dr. Wills and her team, and we're really pleased with not only the results of the survey, but also with, you know, the progress that Putnam Valley's made as a community. They've come a long way. The coalition is thriving, and we're really happy to be able to work with them now and moving forward. So thank you. If there's any questions, please ask. Yes.
I have questions. Just 2 questions. First of all, I want to thank you for your good work here. I think it's really critical that, especially that we monitor the data and see where we're going. So thank you for that. Just something just on the graphs, just to make sure that people who see this on TV aren't freaking out with us compared to Putnam County. When you show the Putnam County numbers on a slide, those are the overall numbers, because they're sitting right next to the 12th graders, and so it looks like we're way above here.
Right,
And
so you're exactly right. So we break out the 8th, 10th, and 12th graders because nationally, that's what the federal government does. But we survey, right now, we've surveyed 8th through 12th graders. So the survey, we break out for the purposes of this this presentation, the even grades, but then we also show the county results, which is grades 8 through 12.
Right, so that we're
That's why
taking
there's
out.
gonna
Right.
be, it looks like it's
Yeah, well, it looks like our 12th graders are right next to the
Yes,
overall,
right.
so it looks like
Right.
we're high. I just wanted to,
Putnam Valley is doing a really,
literally.
talking globally across the county.
Yeah.
Putnam Valley is doing very well. It just had to be next to it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
got-
that's a very important,
Yeah.
the other thing is also the scale. For people who are home, they
can't
might
see
think
it.
it's 100%
When it
scale.
starts at
And it's
40 or
really
something,
about
and- yeah.
30 or 40% that it's the highest. So we're about 25 with, so in some of these
Exactly.
areas.
If you can't see
People
it.
might think it's 100,
Yeah, I
so.
just wanted to point that out.
It's hard
when
you're
So people
looking-
aren't,
Yeah.
Well,
And
also,
I-
we've
We've got to
if you-
remember, the 8th grade brings everything down. Those
Right.
the younger grades bring all
Right,
the
so-
averages
So when you're
down.
doing
So if we
So
do-
when you look at the average for the
Yes.
county,
Right.
that includes all those younger grades.
I was doing the math in my head, and it looks like we're right in line, so.
Exactly.
Well, you're pretty much,
yeah.
pretty much even. I'll tell you, most of the counties pretty much are all about the same.
The other question I had was just about heroin specifically. Are you planning to point to heroin more in your data collection?
We do mention it in the other narcotics slide. It's very low, less than 5%, or less, might have been less than, I can go to it. And we do have, in addition to the funding that we have, it's a grant funding for the coalition, we have a separate funding for heroin and prescription drugs, and we've done additional data collection on that, and we have an entire staff person and programming full-time dedicated to that.
We're living in fear of that.
I know.
What we try to do with that is, in high school, heroin's not a problem. I mean, heroin is an epidemic, and
But just the attitudes might be important to measure,
Yes.
right, towards it.
Because something happens when the kids, it seems, the next phase of their lives, and now it's looking at this new drug, fentanyl, that's becoming a very scary drug. But it seems to be the next phase after high school.
well, I think that's what you're seeing. The grant that we have, the Partnership for Success grant that deals with heroin, that really also deals with the 18 to 24-year-old population. That in between young adult population, we see it more than we see it in high school. We don't see it as much in high school. The consequences are so catastrophic that's why everybody thinks it's the biggest problem. In high school, the problem here is really alcohol and marijuana.
It's the gateway.
And prescription drugs lead into that. We're doing a lot of work now with physicians. We're trying to work with the hospitals, with parents. So we are addressing it. Just that we do have numbers that we take in this, but the numbers are so low in high school that they don't.
I think the issue is the gateway issue at the high school level. So you're seeing, that's where we're trying to be effective in finding other ways for kids to, to be fulfilled in their life. And I think it's, it's a huge challenge right now when you look at some of the statistics later on. And
Right.
Well, prescription drugs has been a real big problem because of the fact that when young people get involved with drugs and alcohol, there are two things. Is it available? Is it safe? Prescription drugs are available. You go into your house. I had shoulder surgery. I had Vicodin in my house. So they're available. Are they safe? Now, if I'm a young person, cocaine or a drug that the pharmacy made, that the FDA approved, to them, in their minds, it's safe. It's safer. Even though, like for instance, if I had a daughter that was, say, in 10th grade, weighed 95 pounds, she takes my Vicodin. I'm 6'3", I weigh 225. Even though she thinks it's safe, my dosage is really going to affect it. So it's in their mind they look at the safety and the availability. So that's where we really focus. We're bringing a program in here too. We spoke about called the farming effects, where we're going to even go down into the middle school. We're going to use high school students, and it's really an interactive program. We were one of 10 communities nationwide that we picked to do this program that's being evaluated by the Ohio State. And what it is, it uses high school students go in, and it's really hands-on. They do skits, they game shows, and what they're trying to do, they talk about media literacy. They're trying to educate the younger, having the older students educate the younger students. So we are doing a lot in that aspect.
And also, we're very active. We've been doing prescription drug take-back days twice a year since 2010. We do a point-of-sale initiative throughout the county where Bruce visits every pharmacy in the county, and we work with them to put educational materials right at the counter where you pick up your prescription about prescription drug abuse. We also have med return units in every municipality in the county. There's one here in Putnam Valley at the town hall. It's open during business hours, so we're really promoting proper disposal of medication because, like Bruce said, we know that if it's available in the medicine cabinet, it's not locked up, there's more likely to be abuse simply because young people might think it's not as risky. It's prescribed, by a doctor. They think it's safe. And the unfortunate thing is once people do begin to abuse prescription drugs, they become more difficult to obtain, and that's when they move to heroin because heroin is much cheaper and much more accessible these days. So we're working, like Bruce said, we're kind of have a comprehensive approach to this. On the availability side, we're working closely with law enforcement. And then there's a component of education and using peers, using high school students to educate middle school students.
Well, and I heard you also mentioned you're working with physicians. I also recently had dental surgery, and when I went for the follow-up, it was a second dental surgery, they had the prescription pre-filled out for my painkiller. And I said, no thanks, I have one from the last time, and I didn't use any of them anyway, so rip it up. But it was already so automatic
Right.
that they were going to prescribe it, that it's just part of the process. I'm not saying don't prescribe it for people that may be in pain at following surgery, but there's no question, do you have it from the last time? Do you still need? Is this a concern?
And just for the parents that are listening, is that when that's a big thing, when they go in for wisdom tooth, they'll give them 15, 30 Vicodins. You can ask your doctor, or dentist, or oral surgeon, for a non-opioid pain relief. They do have it. It's just that a lot of parents don't know about it. So we even have something that we distributed here. I think, I'm not sure if we did it through the sports teams, but we have a pamphlet for parents, or a palm card for parents, on the things they should do if their child has to get prescribed. Because what we're seeing now is a lot of, you know, when they have a tear an ACL, sports injuries, where they get Vicodin, where they get all these pain meds. So we're trying to be in the forefront by getting that information.
I'll just say this is so hard to look at, some of these things, you know, but it's so important to look at, and I thank you. You should come, of course, every year and keep us updated as you do this, but it's very difficult to look at, and I know there are many factors, not just the school, as you mentioned, the education, but it sounds like we're doing our part.
I
And,
think the Key Leaders program we had this year, that we had the whole community at that center at the ambulance.
But I mean, I learned something tonight from looking at these statistics too, that the current, if I'm hearing correctly, that one of the current things to think about is the marijuana education.
Yes.
That, as you said, tends to be looked at now as well. They're making it legal, so what's so bad about it? And that education really has to step up at this
The most
point.
important thing with that is that for young people, for students, what we're really concerned, my big concern is 12-year-old, 18-year-old, they're really 25, their brains are still developing. If you're 30 years old and you decide that you want to smoke marijuana, you know the risks. I can't do anything about it. I can do something about the 12-year-old because their brains, the prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, and drugs affect that and destroy that. So what we want to do is educate the parents. So I don't think a lot of parents know that either. And it's good to know that because this brain research, and I keep saying this all the time, but it's so important because 10 years ago it didn't exist. No one knew anything about it. But it's so important because every parent wants their kid to have a healthy brain. I don't know what parent would say they would. So that's where we're trying to push it. It does affect the development of the brain, their reasoning, their memory, their decision making. So that's one of the things that we're going to be focusing on this year.
Thank you.
And I think it's important, I'm glad you brought up the school being a part of this. We involve all sectors of the community in the work that we do. The schools are just one of them. And we try to make it clear that they're part of the solution. And we do the survey here because that's where the kids are all day. So we really thank the school, and we can't do this without you. So we know that, you know, a survey that takes an entire class period is time-consuming, it's a commitment to do it, but we also see, we see that we all agree that with this information, we're able to implement programs and make changes as a result. So thank you.
And just one quick thing. We are putting out a parent survey because what we're trying to do is we want to attack it using data. So we had the PNA survey, we had the Key Leader survey. Now we're putting out, probably going to go out in the next 2 weeks, we have a committee from the coalition. We're going to do a parent survey on Survey Monkey. We're going to send it out to all the parents in the community. So please fill it out, send it back, because that gives us feedback. And then what we do is we juxtapose those together to see where we're going to go. Parents, how we're going to attack it with parents, and how we attack it with young people.
I had a question on the alcohol and driving. Do you have drill down data on that as far as who they're in a car with? Do you know if it's an adult or another student?
That's the whole thing. In 8th grade, we don't know. The survey doesn't ask who you're with, an adult or
Is the driver an adult or a
they don't give
student?
you, they don't tell you who the driver is.
Right.
That's one. And these are surveys that are used nationwide. It's not that we create the surveys.
Right.
We do give the evaluators feedback, but for us to add a question, we spend for the county about $15,000 to have these surveys done. And so to add a question, they charge per survey. So it's just something that unfortunately we can't afford literally to do it. But we have given them feedback over the years, and they finally added some things for prescription drugs. And they may, expand on this for next time.
I mean, we can jump to conclusions. The rates are lower for 8th graders than 12th graders. If we're talking they're in the car with parents or family members, we would expect to see that closer together. You can kind of jump to the fact that your older students are in cars with other young people more often, because there would be more similarity.
Right.
But again, that's only
Right.
jumping to conclusion.
Exactly.
I just, want to say, and kind of in segueing to the rest of our agenda, and I'm a school social worker in another district, I love everything that the coalition is doing, and if I was to get on my soapbox, I think what we have to do is as much related to direct education about this topic, but also direct education about rigor, goal setting, tolerance for failure and risk. I mean, if we analyze why 18 to 24-year-olds are engaging in such life-altering and ending behaviors, are we preparing them for life? Is there self-medicating involved? Is there, I thought things would be easier and they're not? I don't know. We don't know. Nobody can get behind the mind of an 18 to 24-year-old unless you are an 18 to 24-year-old. But I think that everything we do as a district positive leads to prevention. Having kids comfortable with rigor, having kids comfortable with failure and goal setting and how to jump back when you do fail or don't achieve your goal actively and proactively, I think is crucial.
Right. Exactly.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next is talking about rigor, is an introduction of the IB program, and I never pronounce those two words well, so I'm just going to let you do it. I kind of messed them up.
So actually, good evening.
So this is Mrs. Intrieri, who is our high school principal, and Matt Mello, who is working with Mrs. Intrieri on this project.
So as a segue, actually, I believe in a strong school community, and I want school to be a place that our kids want to be at, where I don't want it to be a place where they dread coming. And so kind of in response to that this year, one of the things we're doing is we, with the help of the class of 2015 that had leftover funds and help with the athletic department, we have purchased a brand new blue tiger mascot, and we invite you all to the January 27th basketball game. So I'm working with the super fans and with the athletic department, and we have all these big festivities planned for the students. It's going to be a really fun event, so we'd like you all to be there to see the new tiger when he comes out.
Oh, very exciting.
So when I first came to Putnam Valley, I was here maybe even a few weeks, and at one of the teacher meetings, a couple of teachers said to me, "Can we do IB now?" And I was like, well, wait a minute, can I get settled here first? Right. So this year, everything being more stabilized, we thought it was an appropriate time to start investigating it. So Mr. Mello has helped me with that, and he's going to do the presentation along with me tonight.
So thank you for giving us the opportunity to present this to you. I got to say the one disappointment here is I missed my Team Mojo workout tonight. I know, Ginny, and you realize that.
I also miss it as well.
All right, so we want to take a look at who we are as a school district. So we kind of brainstorm. What's special about our district? Where are we right now? And you can see up there we have a bunch of things listed. As far as what we are: strong interscholastic programs, caring, supporting staff, experienced and progressive faculty, supportive community, strong college preparatory program. On the right side, you see some of the things that we do offer at the high school: DCC and AP courses in all departments, science, research, Journeys program, an ever-increasing STEM program and established, very well-established music and arts programs. I do want to say, like, when this came about last year with Sandy coming in, we originally brought this up during the Ray Cooper administration, when he was here and talked about, looking into IB. We ended up going towards AP at that point in time. But I think it was always in the back of our minds that IB might be something that would be really beneficial for our district. So it's just nice to have this opportunity to investigate it a little bit further.
So in going back to what we are, we do a lot of very, very, very good things here. But a lot of schools are doing a lot of good things. So how can the IB make us stand out? What could we be if we become an IB school? So it's more students taking rigorous classes. In AP classes, AP is much more selective about who should be in their classes, who should take them, where IB offers different levels, so it gives a greater opportunity for more students to have that rigorous type of course. More students accepted to their college of first choice. So when we visited Red Hook and we visited Dobbs Ferry and now we visited Harrison High School, which is a relatively new IB school, one of the things that each of those administrators has always emphasized to me is that because of IB, they're starting to get kids into places, their first choice, Ivy League schools. They get less rejection from colleges because they're taking this more rigorous program that requires a more balanced curriculum and the extended essay and such. So they feel like they're getting into their first choice and they're preparing their kids better for that 4-year program, and they have less students dropping out after 1, 2, 3 years of college.
We also looked at, some of the things here. We're constantly trying to find ways to become more connected, with faculty, students, community, and things like that. And the IBU program, offers a different type of culture. I think, when we went to Dobbs Ferry, a lot of the teachers, their response was, it was an IB culture. It was a different culture down there. Than what we've seen here, a different academic culture, but it wasn't just that. It kind of goes beyond that, especially with what IB offers as far as connections to the rest of the world. So what we can become, you can see a bunch of those things up there, faculty that receives ongoing professional development. The IB program has some rigorous specific steps that IB teachers have to take and continue to take in order to be able to offer those IB or continue to be part of the IB program. I'll let Sandy talk about the last one that's up there.
One of the things that also tends to happen in an IB school is because originally this program was made for diplomats so that they could move around to different places. And so you tend to have people coming to visit your school a lot and investigate, do they want to go here for the IB program? You also have those students who have left after 8th grade to go to private schools now tend to come back. And it also gives an opportunity for locally schools that are K-8 schools might choose to contract with your school because you offer a different program than others. So you do see, I couldn't give you a percentage, but in Red Hook and in Dobbs Ferry, they have seen, steady increase in high school. Instead of losing all those kids after 8th grade, they tend now to stay.
So we talk about, what is our responsibility as a district, and we want to offer academic experience that best prepares students to be positive and productive citizens in the 21st century. So we're looking at a program here that we think might really benefit our district in promoting those ideas or responsibilities that we have as a district. So our hope is that, as we move forward with this, not just us, but a lot of other people can start to understand the depth of an IB program and the benefits that it does offer. I'll just say, from my experience, when you first see like AIB, when we were at a faculty meeting last spring, and people asked about it, so Sandy brought in, and you'll see there's this wheel associated with IB, and I'm looking at it last year like, okay, there's a wheel, it's got some words on it, and yay, but until you really start to investigate it, you don't really understand all that the IB program is all about. So you have to take some time. It's not something that you can just kind of glance over and have a really good understanding of. It takes some time to look at and investigate to really get the full scope of what an IB program can do.
That's why Mr. Mello's here, so he can help me with the technology tonight. So I wanted to start giving you a little bit of an introduction. What is an IB program? So just to give a quick summary, it began, the idea of it, after World War II with the United Nations, when they really wanted to believe in that interdependent world to try to be more peaceful and coexistent and reduce tensions between countries. That's how the International Baccalaureate was formed. They look for that mission is to, develop that whole child that's knowledgeable and caring and understanding and respectful. And Mr. Mello put the website up here. So on your own time, when you want, you can investigate. The IBO has a tremendously large website that you can go and investigate, and there's all different aspects. It has curriculum on there, it has sample assessments, it has all the different programs, it has research projects on there, data, all sorts of things. So I invite you to look at that when you have some time. And again, I already mentioned this, it's a program where AP is very singular. You have a course, AP World, AP Global, AP Physics, whatever the individual course happens to be. And that's the specific curriculum, and they're not connected. IB offers a curriculum that tries to connect all the courses and tries to also have additional components that develop the intellectual, social, and emotional growth of the child. Just a little background, because you're going to hear IB lingo is very different. So the first program that started was the Diploma program back in 1968, and that is for 16 to 19-year-olds, which means it's only an 11th and 12th grade program. There's the middle years program, and that's for 6th through 10th grade. Then you can go back to the primary years program, and they've added a career program. For our purposes, we are only investigating the diploma program for 11th and 12th grade. A little bit just how IB has grown, just to give you an idea. 1968 it formed. You could see by 2017, we saw the most recent data, there's almost 4,600 IB world schools. It's grown 45% in the last 5 years, which is tremendous. Also, North America has its own hub now, so it's not in England because there's so many schools in the United States and in Canada that they've opened a hub here. But it's growing tremendously, and I think some people have the mistaken belief that IB is just for private schools. That is not the case. Most often in the United States, IB is put into urban schools because the program is so well developed and rigorous for students, and it helps bring all students up to a higher level. So usually like Chicago schools is one place, but you see them in urban areas most likely. And IB promotes the fact that if you have 60% E&L population in your school, we want 60% of your E&L population to be in an IB course. They don't believe in selectivity, and they want students to access all components of the program.
Yeah, and just another thing, I think it's 843 IB schools in the United States of America out of all those worldwide.
One of the things that connects everything in the IB is the IB learner profile, and this is new. Around the mid-2000s, IB developed this, and when they started to transform their program, and they really focus on developing the skills that are in front of you. They want students to be open-minded, so their courses are all about perspective and how to discuss perspectives and how to take an opinion and how to take a claim. They want students to be reflective. They want teachers to be reflective. And you're going to see this in all the components of the assessments, in the grading, in all aspects of the program. So the diploma program, it's a rigorous 2-year course. And students in 11th grade are candidates, and they can choose, they can be certificate or they can be full diploma program. So certificate means they take one class in an IB, one or more, and full diploma, which I'm going to explain to you, is they take something in all subject areas and do additional assignments.
Yeah, you could think of like the certificate program, almost like what we have with AP right now. So, students can take an AP course if they want. It's like a standalone, and they can get credit for an AP course, just like they could take an IB, a standalone IB course, and get a certificate for that. Or they can enroll in the program.
And there's also terminology called standard level and higher level, which is important to note. So most IB courses are 2 years. That's important to note. There are some one-year ones like IB psychology, but most are taken over 2 years. And there's different varieties of ways you can offer things in different curriculums. You could see the hour requirements there, standard level and then higher level. And so it depends on working with the teachers and looking at our own school, what we would offer in standard level courses and what we would offer in higher level courses. So what does a diploma candidate need to do? If you're a diploma candidate, you would choose 3 higher level classes and 3 standard level classes, plus you would do the core. And again, I'll explain this further. So if you're a humanities person and you do really, really well with writing and you love literature and you love history, you would choose to take higher levels in English and history and maybe a film or an art class, and you take your standard levels in math and science. And again, they are looking for that balance, and that's why you take something from everything. If you are really, really good in math and science and that's your passion, just like in college, they want you to choose that route to take for your math and science. Do the higher levels in that area and do your standard levels in English and social studies.
And you can see, there's a link on the bottom. We're not going to go over all that, but you'll have that. This PowerPoint, you'll be able to take a look at that link, which will give you more information about those.
And another important aspect of the diploma program is what we call the core. And this is just like when you're going to Team Mojo for your exercises and you want to strengthen the core because it strengthens your back and it makes everything strong. This is what makes the IB program strong and really makes it stand out. Are these 3 components: the theory of knowledge. This is a special course. It could be, once you're trained, it could be taught by any teacher. They could be phys ed, they could be science, math, social studies, and it's really about how do students learn? How do they think about the world? How do scientists think about the world? How do historians think about the world? They do a lot of interesting discussions in there. So all diploma candidates take that, but that is a class that you would like to open up. You'd like every student to take something like that. The extended essay, which is an independent 4,000-word research paper. So students really work on this over 2 years, and they have a mentor that works with them, and then they're guided along the way. But again, they choose something they're passionate about. So if you happen to be a baseball aficionado, you are a t-ball coach in high school, and that's what you want to do. You know, I had one student once do the physics of t-ball for their extended essay. So they really want to steer students into their passion, so it's something that they enjoy. And then there's creativity, action, and service. So it's not community service. It's, again, focusing on what do students do that makes them unique. So if you are in the band and you play the flute and you enjoy that, and you go to the elementary school and you teach younger students, you give them some music lessons, and then you reflect on that and how does it change you as a person, that's what really that creativity, action, and service component is. It's choosing what you love, teaching it to others, helping others, and then reflecting on it. So those 3 things combined, again, we know those diploma candidates are very, very busy students. So a lot of this means time management, balancing time management, which is why they are very successful in college, because they know how to do that. And this is just a diagram to show you. This is that wheel that Mr. Mello was talking about. And it's just how IB organizes themselves and how they see everything as being connected. So if you look in the middle is approaches to teaching. Different AP is starting to move that way, but IB puts a large focus on how do we teach? How do we approach social studies, science? How do we think about the world? Then you'll see outside of that, the core, again, those 3 components I talked about it. Then you'll see all the different subject areas encircling it. And then overall, they're really looking at students being internationally minded. We're in a global society. How do we look at the world? IB assessments, really personally, I think this is what makes IB stand out compared to the AP program besides the core. So when you take an AP class, you work all year, May comes, you take your assessment, and it's, you know, do or die. I either got the 3 or I didn't, you know, or above. IB is different, that there's both internal assessments and external assessments. So if you're in a social studies class, your internal assessment is a research component or paper that you're working on with your social studies teacher. In English, it's a world languages paper. It might also be they analyze poetry and literature and have to talk about it and be filmed on it. In math, I was talking about it before, in one of the classes, they have a project to do on statistics and look at something they're interested in and look at the stats that go along with that. So a lot of authentic work, case studies, field work that the student has the opportunity and has time to be very successful on, so that everything is not on that end year external assessment. And also the way they're graded, it's by standards, not by rank order. So when you take an AP test, only a certain percentage will get a 5, only a certain percentage will get a 3. That's pretty common every year. They keep it the same. In IB, it doesn't matter to them how many 7s they give out in a certain year. They look at the standards that they've set for the assessment. If you've met the standards and the criteria, then you get the score, even if 100 other kids met that. And again, we have links up there, so we're on your own. You can go back and you can look at some sample essays and some sample assessments.
Yeah, unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm a history teacher, so your samples up there of the essays and the standard level subject brief are all based on history, because that's what I've been looking at. You know, just to give you some background as far as where we went with this, last spring, Sandy did a presentation at one of our faculty meetings, which definitely stirred you know, some interest within the faculty. I know I was definitely curious to find out more about this. Over the summer, we sent 3 different departments to do curriculum work in IB. I think it was LOT, science, and English. And you know, they also were able to now develop a better understanding of, you know, what an IB class will actually look like. And again, they can come back and talk to the faculty and share what they learned with us. And then starting this fall, we contacted 8 IB schools in Long Island, Westchester, Dutchess, you know, reached out to them, you know, to see if we could come in for visits. And I have to say that Red Hook, Dobbs Ferry, and Harrison were all extremely accommodating, welcoming of us. We had a great experience at every one that we went to. We sent different teachers to different ones, and then kind of had them report back to us on, you know, what they saw, what they learned. And there was a lot of excitement, I have to say. You know, one, to be able to get out and visit another school. For me, I sat down for 2 hours. We sat in a room. It was me and 2 other social studies teachers. And we talked AP, we talked IB, we talked students, and there was a lot of different things. And we were able to share some ideas, and you don't generally get to do that. You know, but this felt like it had a purpose to it, and it was really meaningful. And I think a lot of the teachers, the faculty, got a lot out of this. And it wasn't just teachers. Our guidance department went. They went to Dobbs Ferry. Our librarian went to Harrison. So we had other members that were going out there, because as you can see with the IB program, there's a lot of different research and stuff that goes along with that. There's a lot of different components and parts that have to know what's going on if you're going to go to a program like this. So to understand if this will work, if it's the right thing for us, we wanted to make sure that we had enough people out there to get a good idea of what was going on.
will just say that I can't say enough about how hospitable these IB schools are. For these people to take time out of the day, if you saw the agendas they organized for us, I mean, just a lot of time, a lot of energy goes into hosting other schools, and I publicly would like to thank them. The time that the administrator sat down and talked to me at Harrison was very, very generous. So what did our PVHS teachers say? We set up a Google document where they could put we had questions for them and they could put some feedback, and then we met with each of the groups that went as well so that I could hear their feedback. And what's nice is they all come back very enthusiastic and excited because, again, like Mr. Mello said, you're seeing other schools and what other schools do, and that really rejuvenates people and gets them excited for what they could do here. So some of the things that our teachers said, they saw inclusion of all students. So many times you will see sometimes co-teachers in an IB class because they want all students to access these classes. So it's important that the IB makes each school that becomes an IB school have a special ed policy, makes them have an assessment policy. It makes sure that schools are organized and clear about their thinking before they become an IB school.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that we want to point out, if you look at the bottom, impressed with student skills, discussion skills, and impressed with student level of questioning. I think one of the things that the IB program does, which like you don't necessarily get in the AP program or even in the Regents classes, that discussion aspect of the courses is essential to you being successful, especially in the end assessments, and I'm trying to think of the core components. But in order to be successful in those, to develop those skills, it fosters a lot of class discussion or provides a lot of time for class discussion and questioning, which is something I don't know if we have enough of in our classes right now. A lot of times, the Regents level classes, the AP courses, are so content driven that you don't necessarily have the same kind of time for that. With the IP program, you have to have time for that, which I think is really good. I'll just say one other thing. The students in the other schools, it was, children, students, they amaze me all the time when you're able to have the time to talk with them. And they were probably the best promoters of the IB program in all these schools that we went to. So they were able to talk about how much they're enjoying it and their excitement. And I think that's what also made us excited about what we were learning there and what we possibly could bring back to Putnam Valley.
And again, I agree. IB is a lot of really focusing that curriculum on critical thinking and on questioning. So again, we're going to use the social studies, a question. They might say, like an essential question, why do democracies go to war? When does that happen? And then engage in student conversation and discussion with using supporting evidence. And that's the focus of class, as opposed to just, here's the content.
So you can see here some of the area schools that do have IB programs, and there's really not a lot. Long Island, South Side, and Hauppauge. Did I say that right? Hauppauge. Westchester County, you see the Dobbs, Portchester, Harrison, and Somers will have it in 2017. Dutchess, Red Hook in 2001. Rockland County, both Clarkstown North and South. And then if you look at Putnam County, we don't have anybody from Putnam County with IB. But if you look at the counties or areas around us, it's not like there's a lot of schools that are participating in this in general. And I think because it's a cultural shift, it's something different than what most schools traditionally have been used to. So I'm all for kind of moving away from that 1950s, everybody in their rows and in desks in their seat, kind of learning it. I think the IB program allows you to do that.
And when we talk also about college, who knows the magic trick about what gets kids into college? Every college is different. But when they're looking at an area and they're looking at students, what makes Putnam Valley kids stand out from the next school or the next school? Many schools all share the same programs. IB is unique, and colleges know what it requires to take an IB course, and that's is beneficial for our students. It doesn't mean that because you take an IB class, you're definitely getting into the college you want, but it does show that you have taken this rigorous curriculum that's balanced and that basically you are well prepared. So again, it's for all students, I've already said that. Quality assessments, we've talked about the internal and the external, and that college persistence, because they have to balance everything. IB students tend to not drop out as much as students who have not been in that curriculum.
Yeah, so I think there's more, same, prepared for college level work, but the civically and globally minded aspect of it, when you think about those core components, that creativity, that third core component, where they're required to go and do something. They get to choose what they want to do, but they're required to go and do that, and then kind of reflect on that experience. Sandy used the example of somebody who's in music, going to the elementary school and working with kids, with the instrument, and then reflecting on that experience. To me, that's one of the things we have that Journeys program, and we're trying to encourage students to go and take, a chance and, some sort of internship and see what that's all about, and then reflect on that. The IB program has those things built into it. I think the more we can give them real life experience like that, the better they're going to be prepared for what lies ahead when they get out of high school. The other thing, the last one on there, the quality teacher training, I mentioned it at the beginning. The professional development is very rigorous, and it's well laid out, and you have to follow their basically program. There's to begin with, there's like an introductory level kind of professional development, and then you have to go after a couple years to another kind of training, to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to, but also then learning and staying ahead of whatever's out there in education. So they require you to do a lot.
Pros and cons. Well-developed curriculum. The teachers are well trained for it. Quality assessments. Potential for enrollment increase. You're definitely looking at developing those 21st century skills that are important. You have more students going to college, finishing in 4 years. And there are cons to it. It's not, always the panacea. I will say that IB is a tremendous amount of paperwork for teachers. So when teachers are very enthusiastic about this, that's helpful, because there is a large amount of paperwork that goes along with this. They have to, when they grade their students, they have to, write why they're giving the students such and such a grade. There's a lot of reflection that the teachers have to take part in that's very important to the process. There are fees. It does cost $9,500 yearly to be part of the IB program. It is a nonprofit organization, but it does cost to, for all these different components of the program. So that is a significant commitment that the school has to think about. The IB terminology and process are new to people. It's new language, it's new acronyms, it's different. So that sometimes can be scary for people because they don't fully understand. And it can be a challenge to schedule diploma candidates. Just like it's difficult to schedule now somebody who wants to take every AP class and be in band, it's difficult to schedule that diploma candidate who has to take all parts of the program and theory of knowledge. And I've kind of mentioned this along the way, but what's the difference between AP and IB? So I've actually had a unique experience as a teacher, because in some schools I've taught AP classes, and in some schools I've taught IB classes. So I feel I have a unique perspective. I would say personally, as a teacher, I enjoyed the IB much more, and I think the kids got a better experience out of it. Again, it was definitely, you went into more depth. So when you cover the courses, it's not so much sometimes the nitty-gritty content that AP can focus on that kids forget the day after the test. It's looking at broader concepts. It's writing, it's critical thinking, it's looking at authentic research. And I know the AP is trying to move in that way so that they're not losing all these schools to IB schools, but they're not there yet. I really liked how the IB focuses on that whole child and that all the courses are connected. Again, the internal assessments I think are very helpful because it takes the pressure off of the student. If everything is on that end year assessment, that's tremendous. This internal assessment helps to balance that. And of course, the global focus is very important. So IB does want to make sure that all their schools are well prepared. They don't just take any school that says, well, I want to be an IB school. The application is a considerable application that makes you outline and make sure your mission for your school and your district is aligned to what their mission is. They make you reflect on every aspect of what you're doing in your school now, so it's a good reflection process to see strengths and areas of growth in your own school. First, you have the consideration phase, which is where we are now, where we're exploring the program to see if it works for us. Then you go through that application process. Then you would be either accepted or they would tell you that you need more years to work on certain things. Then you would be a candidate school and you would actually then request and get the decision on authorization. So I think it's a 3 to 5 year process, depending on how quickly your school can work. Next steps for us, I need to further sit down with the math teachers who told me today, I was excited to hear, we need to examine how 3 and 2 math would work with IB, but when I talked to some of the math teachers today, they said, we already have it figured out. So I was excited to hear that, and I'm looking forward to sitting down with them and hearing what they have in mind. We would have to write the IB application, which again is a significant process in itself. You do need to have an IB coordinator to run this program, so we would have to appoint one, and that's part of the application process. We need to secure resources for training, which again is a significant commitment on the part of the district and the board that you would have to think about. And again, plan for all that professional development and curriculum coordination, because part of that 3 to 5 year process is every teacher writing the curriculum for their courses to ensure that it's at the level that it should be and meeting the IB standards. Any questions?
I have a
you do. I
couple.
saw you writing
Who
over
goes
that.
first?
Let me get my quick ones out of the way first.
Before everybody throws their questions out, I just want to say, I've heard the words IB since I was in Yonkers on the PTA in 2001, and I only knew it was good and never knew what it was. And I was part of many conversations, so this was a very good presentation, and really, I have a better sense of what it is now. So I want to thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to let them loose. Go.
Well, I first want to thank you for your leadership on this. This is very exciting. It seems like it could, if followed through on, could break Putnam Valley out, which I'd love to see. The questions I have are regarding securing resources for training. What typically are the resources required leading up to the implementation as far as the professional development?
So because IB is a world organization, they do trainings across the world, they do them in North America. So typically, what makes the trainings great is because you're bringing people in from everywhere as well. So teachers do have to travel across the country for IB training.
Just looking for a number. I don't want to need.
I think one of the things that Sandy is saying is that, there might be for some IB courses training in New York City or this area, but it might be in Boston. So you might be requiring, or out in Salt Lake City. So you might be talking about, flying people out to different areas of the country.
Right.
I would like to go to like Fiji myself.
Yes, but I'm
but I don't
thinking
know
that
if
you're
that's,
looking for
where
you need to learn about that Fijian culture.
It depends. You would have to send every 11th and 12th grade teacher who teaches
Right.
an IB class
That's
out on
what's going through
training.
my head,
And
yeah.
then eventually your goal would be over time to send 9th and 10th grade teachers to strengthen and build up the program coming up.
But there has to be
So
a history. There's 4,832
Right.
schools that have done this,
depending
so-
on the number, you would say for each person, for each faculty member, you figure the conference itself is probably about $900 to $1,000 for the conference for 3 or 4 days, and then the travel associated with that. So $2,000 to $3,000 per faculty member who goes on training.
And that's per time, they just one training mission they do?
So usually you would go, there's different levels. From my experience, people might disagree with me, but I think you could go right away to a level 2 training, and that would give you the foundation of what you need. I could give most faculty here the level 1 training that they needed before they went. So you would skip to level 2 training, which would be all the curriculum writing, and they would be set for about 6 or 7 years.
But
If
you'd
we were-
start with the people who are teaching, who are going to teach the IB courses. So it's not like you're taking the entire
I
faculty.
guess
Right.
if we wanted to be as aggressive as possible as far as time frame and get it done in 3 years, let's say we just set a goal, we wanted to do it, could you get us a fairly clear estimate as to what resources it might take to get that done? I
Absolutely.
mean, you don't have to do it tonight, I'm not, I don't
Right.
want to put you on the
I've
spot.
had preliminary conversations with Dr. Wills and Mrs. Figueroa about what it would cost. I just am hesitant to put a full figure out
got it,
there
yeah.
right now. It would be an investment.
Yeah, and we could, couldn't we lean on the Dobbs Ferry and Red Hook to see what it,
Yes.
what it costs them
Yes.
And even
in
Somers,
retrospect? And Somers is going through it right
In
now.
2017, next
Right.
fall, they'll be rolling out the IB program.
So,
So they're
Just-
right in the middle of that initial expenditure now.
Yes.
yeah, okay, so, fair enough.
And let me just add in there, I know Sandy mentioned this, like, we're talking about the IB teachers that would actually be teaching the courses, but every teacher that I talk to in other districts about IB, that's teaching IB, talks about how beneficial it is for those students in the younger grades, even down to like 8th grade, or 7th grade, to start to understand the terminology. And, when you're trying to prepare students for the IB course, implement aspects of that at their level in 7th and 8th grade, 9th and 10th grade, so that they're better prepared for 11th and 12th grade when they can take the IB
Training is
courses.
incredible.
Yeah.
It's definitely more of a cultural.
It sounds great. I'm not, I just
You're
want to
asking
figure
board
out the
member
number.
questions.
Yeah, I'm
Just
asking board member
asking board
questions.
member
It sounds
questions.
wonderful.
That's all.
And, yeah, I want to get behind it. And the other question that stuck out to me is the replacing AP, right, no?
Not fully. And so, and different schools do it different way, and usually it's an evolutionary process. So what was interesting, actually, when Dr. Wills and I went last year for the college physics at Pace, the professor who was in charge of it, they were so thrilled because with the physics program, because they said, "Oh, you're all ready for IB now." I remember. So a lot of our courses are ready to make that leap. But typically, what happens is you start with, for example, IB chemistry, just because I happen to know the program, is not a course that I would recommend putting in right away. So we would keep AP chemistry. We would keep AP global, because that's in 10th grade. We might move AP composition to 10th grade, which is what some schools do, so they could take that. AP physics would probably remain. AP calculus would remain, because the higher level math is so hard in IB that we're not ready for that yet. So there would be AP courses that still would remain.
Some would go, some would stay.
Yes.
I guess just a slight concern is that when we, many years ago when I was first on the board, we seemed to want to offer a lot of AP courses, so many that we ended up with a lot of classes with like 3 and 4 people in it. And does this disperse our programming to the point where we can't afford it to have all of that?
That's an excellent point,
Okay.
and that's actually one that the Red Hook principal brought up to me when I had gone there before. He said, we offer too much, and it makes it too difficult to schedule, and he recommended, just what you said, not offering so many APs along with IB. Plus the fact, IB is really a philosophy, and it really is for your whole school. You don't want a school within a school. That's something you have to be careful of for scheduling. So you're 1,000% correct. That's why we would try to offer some of the APs in 10th grade still, because there is no IB course yet. So students could take that as a foundational building block in that rigor. And then the higher math and science would remain in the 12th grade. That would be an evolutionary process.
And I guess just one more thought on that, and then I'll unleash Joe. When they don't get college credit for IB classes, or they do?
They do, but it depends. Many times they just give credit for higher level, but what happens is because the IB program is growing, IB has opened up a whole department to helping students and professors get IB credit.
Because there'd be some resistance if AP classes that they get credit for, and there's a monetary component to that for some students that you would want to be able to convey that to the public.
Absolutely.
right?
So just like if you get a 5 on an AP exam, if you're in a higher level class and you score well, most likely you can get credits for that. But usually what happens, I had a student who went to Boston University. First, they weren't going to give him credit for his history class, IB history class. He took his curriculum up there and the coursework up there, and they ended up giving him 6
Do you see
credits.
it becoming more common for colleges to
Yes,
accept them?
absolutely.
As we go?
And like I said, when you explore the website, you'll see where they talk a lot about colleges and what they're working to help students with that. But what Harrison emphasized to me and what I really believe is, again, our job is to prepare them so they stay in college and so that they can handle those courses. So it's, that is where the program is very successful.
Thank you.
Mr. Farrar?
And I should add in, there's the opportunity for co-seating, which means you could be in an IB class and they still have a DCC component.
Right.
So depending on the class, this would be a lot of individual work where I would work with teachers. You could co-seat things together.
Before I go, I wanted to see if Sarah had anything to say, because I might go on for a while
About this?
about this.
Program, from what I can see in the PowerPoint right now, I'm all for it. It sounds like a really interesting program, and their student support. Obviously, I haven't talked to any students about this, but from my perspective, this sounds like a great program to implement.
Can I do my quickies first? And some of mine are more nitpicky once we get into it, but how does it work with teacher certification? I mean, the IB has a training, but, currently teachers are certified as a social studies teacher, they're certified as a chemistry teacher. How does that work?
No impact on certification.
Okay.
At all. Once you go to your training, you get your professional development certificate as if you went to BOCES and got it done.
But if you were teaching an IB, his social studies course, you would still need to have been social studies certified?
Absolutely.
Prior.
All New York State requirements and regulations.
Okay. And this is a silly question, the $9,500 fee, per district or per student?
Per district.
I just wanted to check. And you mentioned the certificate program as opposed to the diploma program. So a student could theoretically receive more than one certificate. The certificate is per course.
And I believe, and I can't quite remember, but I believe on the certificate, it might list the courses
The course,
you've
okay.
taken.
Oh, so, right, one
Right.
certificate, it would be 4 or 5 courses.
And not, check me if I'm wrong here, but you don't have to go through a full diploma program. Not every student will do
Right.
that. In many of these schools, a percentage go. But the idea is that more students take one or more of the courses.
Courses, right.
And that is the experience that you want to
And again, it goes back, this program, you wouldn't have that because there's different variety of levels, standard level, higher level, math, there's different levels that allow for students to access it, so you don't have those selectively low numbers.
And sometimes the students take an AP test after they take an IB class. They are prepared enough to do that. In some schools, they actually combine them. So
There are co-seating, but more and more they try to move away from that so that there's, it's the cost that goes along with that.
right.
And then last, and again, this is once we're at that stage, I would imagine that our community service requirement could be incorporated into the component of creativity, action, and service.
Absolutely, and one of the things we're looking at anyway is how to improve our community service
Right,
program.
makes it more meaningful. So,
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
that's all. That was quick.
A couple things, and they're kind of all over the place. Do you have data on those schools that are local? And I'm kind of surprised that there aren't more higher performing schools down county in Westchester that aren't part of this. And I'm just wondering if that's mostly because there's their tradition of the way they do things, and they feel they're being successful enough they don't need this.
So Ardsley, I forget the name of the program, maybe Dr. Wills, they do a unique program out of England.
Yes, they do Cambridge.
Thank you.
They do the Cambridge program.
Right, so Ardsley does a unique program itself out of there. Scarsdale, they don't even do APs. So it kind of depends on the culture, and a lot of these schools, when they move to IB, it's because they want school improvement.
So then I guess I'm thinking about all the, I shouldn't say conflicts, but any of the places where there might be a rub. Regents exams and dealing with the regents as part of these programs, do those schools that are using IB offer less of the higher level regents that aren't required, or do they actually just see improvement in regent scores by going IB?
That is a great question. So really the year that this hits is junior year, and I would say they still offer the Advanced Regents Diploma. That's important to many of those schools, but I would say there is an important curriculum component where you do have to sit down with teachers and decide, IB gives you many choices that I didn't go into. You have different routes, different curriculums, and you do have to put things in careful place so that it does match up with New York State Regents. So U.S. history is one of those examples. So, I mean, if you can do well in an IB class, you're certainly going to do well on the Regents because of the extensive critical thinking and the writing, et cetera. But that is something that has to have careful consideration and what you have to put in your application.
And if you think about, and again, my history background here, if you look at the global history and geography regents and the U.S. history regents, the new Common Core ones that are coming out, not this year, 2018, I think, those new ones, they're much more modeled like the IB program or the IB questions than what they are now. So the IB classes will do a better job preparing you for those regencies, which are New York State, or not, yeah, New York State modeling their regents exams after the IB questions.
And if we're talking about juniors and seniors, and we're talking 250 to 300 students at any given time, what is kind of the anticipated enrollment in, again, competing for schedule and competing programs in an IB, in any IB class? I mean, I guess how many would be the limit to what would be recommended for one student to take of IB classes in a particular semester or year?
Right, so that, I mean, it's based on the individual student, but if you're a very high achieving student that likes to challenge themselves and take a lot of APs, we want to encourage as many students as possible to try for the diploma. Because it doesn't mean you end up with a diploma, but you're being exposed to the extended essay, which is a great process to go through. You're being exposed to that theory of knowledge class. Because again, IB is levels, and some are higher levels and some are standard levels, it's more doable for students. The difficulty is in that time management of having a lot to do.
3 core, 2 lower, 2 higher, right?
Three higher, 3 lower.
Okay.
And we actually have some, I think it was the Red Hook IB coordinator sent us some sample, or sent us some schedules of students, because we wanted to see that as well. What does this look like for a student, in their day and each year? And it usually works out to about 3 IBs in your junior year, 3 IBs in your senior
Because
year.
it's 6 courses total, plus the core components.
And Harrison was also very helpful in giving us sample schedules. And to be forthright, one of the concerns of mine was to make sure that our band and choral programs stayed well intact, because those high achieving students, the danger is that they would move away from one of those in order to do the full diploma. So Mr. Odell, Dr. Massera, they went on visits to Red Hook. Dr. Massera also went to Harrison High School because they have an IB theater program. So there's so much variation within the IB program as courses you could offer that we're already have ways to make sure that we can keep that strong program, because that's important to us.
Now, would this supplant science research? Would science research be built into, would it become an IB program, or would it be a completely different program?
I am 100,000% behind our science research program, and one that I would like to see grow and is completely separate from the IB program. Dobbs Ferry has a extensive science research program. I think one of them just won one of the big Intel Awards, and that's, again, completely separate from doing the IB.
But they can do a paper. Their 4,000-word paper
Can
actually
serve two purposes.
serve the science research piece. So that's where those students would be working on that from the beginning, because they do that. They do a research
Having one
paper.
product to track the two goals or two requirements.
Would IB classes also receive the same type of ranking that like an AP class would, as far as for the
The weighting,
grade
definitely,
weighting?
definitely. And we might even have to look at, you know, how is a higher level ranked and then a standard level ranked. So it might be an additional. That's something we have to examine.
The seeing as College Board is AP and it's also SAT, I'm imagining that, I mean, there's a rub there, but it seems to me that the more reasoning you can do and the more intellectual fortitude that you get from going through an IB program would also prepare you very well for an SAT. I just, you know, the idea of, you had cons on the board. Cons, none of the cons stuff seemed to be on the academic side. It all seemed to be back office operations stuff.
Absolutely. Well, for example, cons of the IB program are, for example, when you mail your assessments away, you're mailing them sometimes to Singapore, to Japan, all across the world, you know, the postal costs. And so IB has tried to minimize that, and now you spend, you know, they're trying to upload things so it's less of a cost. Those are kinds of, because it's a global program, the kind of the problems that you mentioned.
And with the global program, there's then to become an IB school and continue to be an IB school, you're getting certified from visits from outside, like somebody from the organization is coming to oversee the delivery of the product, for lack of a better phrase. So we're being coached all the time if something is off to get back on track. Is that, am I understanding the process?
Another great question. So one, actually, because I've been through the process, I've been in a lot of conversation with the Somers principal about what he's to expect, because you often have the IB visits. They bring a consultant, and then you actually get reviewed once you've started the program. And the same thing with Harrison, they're ready to go through a 5-year program where they have to reflect on all aspects, and they have a consultant come who evaluates them. Dobbs Ferry must have just gone through a 15-year review, and they had a whole team come where they had to interview teachers and look at curriculum. So they're constantly there's oversight by IB.
And then my last question for now is, you mentioned that there obviously there's the lower levels as far as elementary, and then the idea of this not necessarily a pilot, but being the launching point for broadening out possibly broadening out the program to enter the middle school as well as the underclassmen in the high school. I know you mentioned offering something to the lower grades in the high school, but as we move along, the idea could be to broaden and take the other piece, what I don't remember the name of it, but whatever the next level.
The middle years.
Younger,
Yep.
the middle years
The
program.
middle years program is excellent. It really focuses on approaches to teaching, and it really does a tremendous amount of interdisciplinary work in the middle school years. And that ends with a personal project that's very extensive and very authentic. And that personal project then is supposed to be the launching pad for that 4,000-word extended essay. So it builds on each other.
And I guess my real last question for now is, you mentioned that like higher level physics or higher level math would still continue to have AP because either the program, either we're not ready for it or the program doesn't fit. Are there other areas that IB does not work for as far as what our current offerings deliver?
I would say, so there's a group 6, there's called the arts, and there's different choices that you can choose in the arts. So you could choose to have a film program, you could develop your own art program, and then there's IB music and there's IB theater. So I wouldn't say that we're not ready for those. IB film we're not ready for, but we would have to look at that group 6, it's called, and decide what is it that we would offer here that's best for our students that they'd be interested in taking. Mr. Odell has analyzed the IB music, and it's not a great course for us, so that would be something maybe we wouldn't decide to do and go in a different direction.
Thank you.
Anyone else for now?
Just
I'm
a
sure
little
this is the
follow-up
last
question, just
conversation.
a quick one for clarity. All of the courses are 2-year courses?
Most are 2 years. You can offer some as 1 year. Like I said, IB psychology is one. Sometimes what you can do if you decide, let's just say as a student, oh, I don't want to take IB history junior year, but now senior year I've changed my mind, you can take a 1-year class, and even though it might be the higher level designation, you'd get standard level credit because it's 1 year instead of 2.
So you would actually, would you offer regular psychology as well as IB psychology, or would one supplant the other, or would that just be the honors level?
So it would depend, it always depends on what students are asking for. So for example, this year we did not offer, I forget which one, AP psychology, I think, because the numbers, as you'd mentioned before, were too low. So we're working on building that up, so then see if students choose it this time, then we'll put it back into the rotation.
And its impact on electives, that like maybe the semester electives, would those continue to go through as well?
I think it increases electives because what's nice about it, because they want that well-balanced student, more students take art courses, things like that that are electives because you need them to wrap up the diploma.
All right, this was wonderfully comprehensive and obviously not the only conversation. So you mentioned in the next steps is to write the application and look at math, which your math teachers seem to have handled, so you'll find out about that tomorrow. And at one point, at what point is this a voting thing? Is this we give you, Dr. Wills, the go-ahead and you put in the application? I mean, I guess there's no harm in putting an application and not being accepted.
Right.
Which I don't think would ever happen, but.
Because the application process is so lengthy and extensive, it does take time to
Right,
put in.
we want to be committed.
And what they do is, they do say no, but they say this is what you need
Right.
to do to be, you have to appoint a coordinator, they might say, or you might need to go to, a couple people might need to go to training first, or they tell you what you need to do to
So
fulfill
we're
it.
committing to some resources
Right.
by doing this.
Just starting the.
Yes, and I've included it in my budget just to, you say this would be one of the initiatives, and I think the consensus of the board to move along with this is very significant.
Okay.
I agree.
And we've talked about it before. Thank you again, both of
Thank you. And don't forget to come to see the tiger.
No, I'm coming to see the
Thank
tiger. I
you.
wrote it in my calendar while you were talking. Okay. Dr. Wills, you're
Yes.
up. Budget and educational initiatives. Oh, you're up too, Ms. Figueroa. Okay.
Well, I have to say that Sandy asked if she could go ahead of my presentation. And at first I said, well, Sandy, I'm going to mention IB in this. And so I was hoping to give an introduction. But I'm very, very glad that Sandy went first because this is really about inspiring us to move forward and in our goals. And this is a platform for us as we look ahead in our educational process in the district to look at the IB as sort of a way, a criteria that we look at for how we can be successful as a district with the kind of core program that IB presents, which is a rigorous program, a thoughtful program. It's based on the passions of students and 21st century learning, which is what I'll be talking about in what I'm proposing for next year as well. So inspiring and preparing our students for their future is my theme for the budget for this year. So in looking at developing the budget, I also looked at our goal for students to have access to learning, all students to have access to learning, to developing 21st century skills. And this is the logo that we use, the graphic that we use for our professional development team in the district, and was developed, in fact, by the professional development team in the district. And you'll see that these areas that are discussed in this 21st century skills graphic are the kinds of skills and concepts that we want our students to be part of in their high school career. Collaboration, creativity, communication, critical thinking, and all about active learning. So the IB program promotes all of these concepts. And so, you know, when you look at collaboration, the question, how do we encourage collaboration throughout our learning community? That's a question that's part of the IB. Creativity, how do we foster innovative thinking amongst our students and our teachers? That's also part of the IB program. So if you look at the 21st century learner, you're looking at a way to think about why we want to bring the IB program to Putnam Valley. So one of our focuses here in advancing all of our students is our struggle to offer multiple opportunities for challenge and support. We want all students to access what we have. In order to do that, we have to provide the challenge. We need to have the challenge. That's the rigor of a program like IB. And we need to also think about how we're going to support the students. If we want all of the students to do this, some of the students need more support than others in order to have that access. And the other area is readiness. Are our students ready for, you know, entering into this world? So Mr. Ferraro asked about the middle years program, and the middle years program is a way to, in fact, prepare students to enter this at an earlier stage, to have these experiences of collaboration, creativity, and be challenged. So this theory is something that guides a lot of what we do. For example, the readiness part of it. We spent this year, for example, doing a lot of work in literacy. That's a readiness piece. In order for our students to be successful in the IB program, they have to have the ability to read effectively and to read in a way that will engage them in their own pursuit, to write their essay, for example. There's a lot of research involved, a lot of, yes, you can use a lot of multimedia channels for that, resources for that, but there also is that need to become critical readers. I'm using this phrase that I've always felt very strongly about, the word possibility. There's a whole thing about being a possibilitarian, and some of it comes from Emily Dickinson's poem, Dwelling in Possibility. I used that as my logo when I was doing consulting, because dwelling in possibility is what I believe we need to be when we are teaching students and when we are looking at students' futures. So it was interesting that Sir Ken Robinson, who's done a lot of TED Talks and is a philosopher of education who talks about creativity, he talks about creating a climate of possibility. And that's really what we're trying to do here in Putnam Valley with our programs, with our opportunities that we're offering to students. So he talks about the fact that human beings are naturally different and diverse, that we are naturally curious creatures, and that human life is inherently creative. And he talks about the real role of leadership as climate control, creating a climate of possibility, and if you do that, people will rise to it, achieve things you did not anticipate and couldn't have expected. And indeed, by creating this whole presentation on the IB program and looking at that as a goal for our school district, that is sort of the place where many of these expectations can be realized, where many of these aspirations can be realized if we create this climate of possibility. And I believe we have an incredible administrative team, leadership team in our school district, able to and very eager to and motivated to create this climate of possibility. Oops, wrong way. So, you know, think about that when we look at both the arts and the sciences, and of course you're looking at IB and the humanities and the sciences and math, those two major areas. So recognizing the value of our visual and performing arts programs that we do have, what are the strengths we're building on here? Programs that allow our students to flourish. Establishing greater options for students in math and science through the science research and the STEM programs, and more choices to expand the rigor of the work. Building on our world language program to expand global initiatives. This is something we've just sent out to our middle school parents the opportunity for students who wish to take Mandarin next year through this distance learning model. And we haven't heard back yet as to how many parents are interested, but it's possible. We don't know how many, if we'll be able to offer it. But this was a way for us to go beyond having Spanish at the middle school to offer another option. Again, possibilities for students and for families who would like to explore another area. Providing the active learning labs to model new ways to learn. At the middle school, there is it's a wonderful space which I'll show you some places where they're using that lab for different coursework. We have the makerspace at the elementary school. Again, a lot of good work going on there. And providing new pathways for students with special needs. There's a new diploma program at the high school for the students with special needs pathways so that they can obtain a diploma. So just a couple of photos to show you what I mean by the makerspace, by collaboration, about creativity, pulling together these ideas, what's actually going on in the schools. So at our elementary school, there's a makerspace which all of the students and teachers are using constantly. I saw today the science program in second grade doing incredible work on landforms because they've taken at the elementary school nature as their theme, ways that nature can be explored and understood. And the students who are working on landforms, they use the makerspace to make these incredible sculptures that actually demonstrate what they've learned in this study. So here's a group of students who are working on a design, and you can see collaboration for these students in this makerspace. They're working on a sketch of something that they're creating to solve a problem that's been given to them. So they have an essential problem, and they're there solving that problem together. This is what we mean by the 21st century skills that we're trying to create. So for next year, as part of this effort to promote this kind of 21st century learning, I am requesting that the board consider the appointment of a director of learning and innovative educational opportunities. So this embeds technology, it embeds learning, it embeds curriculum. It's a position that you once had a position which was a director of curriculum. This is taking that a step further in that we're looking at this as a way to promote learning in a variety of ways. So here are the concepts, the job description qualifications, if you will, the attributes that we are looking for in this particular position. So providing leadership and coordination necessary to support teaching and teacher initiatives that connect curriculum, effective instruction, and technology applications in the classroom. You can see that technology is embedded in learning here. We're not talking here about how to use a particular type of technology, but how can that technology catapult learning in a classroom, catapult a process, a project, a problem-based experience. That person would oversee our mentor program to ensure the orientation of training of probationary teachers. Now, we are entering into a time when we're going to have more probationary teachers. We've started that this year, and as our teachers retire, this year we have a number of 7 teachers retiring. We need to really pay attention to how we cultivate all our new staff that we bring on, and we need a tremendous amount of attention on that process. We want someone who could facilitate teacher teams to integrate best practices in assessment and instruction enhanced by digital learning. We are not forgetting technology. We want to use that to enhance the learning process. Supporting communities of practice that promote student engagement and innovative approaches to learning and curriculum development. Developing global networks, and here's your IB comes into this, but other ways that we can get involved in global networks to provide students with connections to authentic audiences for their work. That's what IB does. Students write for external assessors. People from all over the world assess the student work in an IB program. Assist with creating faculties that are professional learning networks focused on continuous improvement and growth. This would be part of the work that, for example, in IB, where teachers go to train, how do we take that training and, connect it to other teachers in our district. Applying research on learning to develop reliable and meaningful assessment and instructional strategies and best practices, again, in the use of technology to improve student achievement, and supporting and leading curriculum work, K-12 with expertise. In this case, I'm very strongly desirous of having someone here who would have expertise in secondary level, 7 through 12, to start to build that area. We're doing a lot of work K to K-8. Other areas we want to have expertise in, observation, feedback, and coaching strategies, working with the administrative team to promote best practices, supporting and leading curriculum work K-12, student engagement initiatives, and with a background in writing. We're looking for someone who has a strong background in writing to assist the development of our more robust writing program. If we're going to work with IB, we're looking at a lot of writing that needs to have preparation work from the beginning. And of course, we're looking at someone who will help these students to develop the kind of writing that will make them successful in college and career. The thing that really is of concern when students go to college, and I'm not just talking about Putnam Valley, I'm talking about overall. They get those first writing assignments, and if they're not prepared, it's overwhelming for them. So we need to, and we've been working on this over the years here, and we need to even have more oversight to ensure that that occurs. And the position itself would, of course, require building and district leader certification. So this is a major initiative. It's something you once had a position like this for a variety of reasons. At one point, that position, no longer was abandoned. And for the time that I've been here, I've been serving in ways to make things happen in this area. But if we are to move forward, we need to generate something. We need to have someone whose focus, this will be their focus. Now, I wouldn't have considered introducing this at another time, but right now in our budget situation, because we have many retirements, we do have the opportunity to fund this program effectively and successfully. And so this is the time to bring it back. Now, I do not know any other district of our size that does not have this position. So we have been working very hard with our administrative staff, with our team, with our leaders. Our principals are doing a great deal of work. We have also utilized the skills of teachers, which is good, and that needs to continue. That's very good work. But we need to have someone who will work with the team and direct a lot of this, the vision, make the vision real for all of us, because we're on the cusp of something here, and we need to push forward. So this is a time when I'm presenting this to you. So, I think what I'm trying to show is we do great things. We have school opportunities here that exist beyond the classroom, and we need to remember that. This is an example from our color war and what our students do, what they're able to do and create. We have great strengths here that we want to build on, but we're at the cusp of moving into something else. You heard the vision about IB. This is a vision that we've been building over the last few years. We've brought in the science research. We've brought a Journeys program here. We have done a number of things. We've increased our world languages here at the high school to include French, for example. We have made some strong statements about possibilities, and we need to move it forward. I am a great believer in community connections and in relationships that lead to innovation. One of the things I thought was so innovative was the Girl Scouts working with our middle school and high school and elementary as well to create these posters where we had our students with the sayings about bullying, but it was our students. So when a student looked at these posters, it had meaning, it had personal meaning, personal connection. And this was done with a problem-solving process with the middle school and the Girl Scouts. And that's the kind of thing that is a real, authentic task, and it's one that we work with the community to enjoy and to make happen. So, world language expansion is another initiative that I've just mentioned about the distance learning Mandarin and the possibility also of an asynchronous Latin program. And this, again, this is a BOCES program with aid, which comes back as revenue the following year. We're looking at a sustainable environmental curriculum development process, which the board had requested, and we've started working with SELF, which is the Children's Environmental Literacy Foundation, and we're developing a team that will go this summer to the Environmental Institute, and they'll be writing curriculum to coincide with our energy program that we're looking at here, with our energy contract, performance contract. We're also connecting with the Cornell Extension for producing gardens at our schools as part of this sustainability model. We have an environmental club here. Nick Lenhard is the advisor, and he's very interested in the garden here at the high school. And we'd like to do that at all of the schools. We have our outdoor classroom at the elementary school. We want to continue our Innovative Designs in Education initiative, and actually, this initiative is a very good precursor to the IB program. It's a program that is authentic. The work is authentic for the students, and it's work that our middle school has started. There's a cohort that started this, and this is where this would be pre-IB, if you will. It's a sort of a preparatory program to do that. And just to look at the active learning lab at the middle school, which shows what the IDE and all these programs are about. It's, again, the collaboration, working in that all room, that active learning lab. This is a science class that Ms. Galello was leading, and using that space, students working in teams, working on a problem and how to solve that problem. This is a journalism class in that same active learning lab, where the students are using the whiteboards as a team. They're a group together working on this. And then I mentioned the IB, which you've heard a great deal about as a path to excellence. And another initiative that I am including in the educational initiatives is the board consideration of the Later Start initiative for the high school, where we're acting on research-based evidence that a later start promotes student academic achievement, physical and mental health, develops logistical, and we're developing a logistical infrastructure to support the later high school start, including the revised schedule that ensures student access to activities. And that schedule has begun to be developed. There is a lot of discussion about that right now, and it's a very, I think it's a schedule that actually promotes all of these 21st century skills, because it does include some blocks, some longer periods of time, and it also has some rotation within it. It's a sophisticated schedule, and one I think that if we're moving in this direction, it will promote the kind of learning that we're talking about. As I mentioned earlier, the replacement of retiring staff provides for us this opportunity, if you will, to have resources available to do some of these things that we want to do. We have 16 retiring staff members, including an administrator, 7 teachers, 8 members of the CSEA. Now, there is a downside when people retire. You're losing your, a lot of your roots and the richness of that experience. So there's always a downside in that aspect. The other side of it is that it provides the opportunity for new growth, if you will, new ideas, and like the IB program, like some of the other initiatives that we want to present to improve our instructional program. We're also replacing our aides with teaching assistants in many cases. And this is an initiative which, again, we talked about support and we talked about challenge. Well, this provides the instructional support for students because the assistants are able to provide that instructional process in the classroom. And so they add the value added for our students who need that additional help. And, you know, again, we're seeking the best qualified educators with the attention to continuing to build a diverse and vibrant educational community here in the district. We have some additions to teaching staff that we anticipate due to some class size issues we've been struggling with, K-12. Our Spanish program at the middle school, for example, our history at the middle school, we need some pieces to have more sections there to have a reasonable class size. And we're looking to some changes in the high school, again, to allow for some of the periods in the day that we need to fill in our achievement center. We want to increase our math and journalism program and some film electives as well, as we're starting to build toward that richer IB curriculum. And we are going to be moving some, for example, move a 6th grade teaching position to grade 5 to address enrollment. That's not really an addition, but we're moving. We want to make sure we have the right class sizes at the different levels. And we may need an additional 0.2 in the earth science as well. So this is where we are. We want to move into a direction where we are engaging students in learning, all of our students in learning and thinking. And one example of it this year, which was really wonderful, and I don't know how well this will come out, but this is very, very brief. But Mr. Mahoney, who is a math teacher at our high school, has been really working over the past several years, how can I really engage our students in learning math? And he's developed, through his research and ideas, a way to use the growth mindset model and to use a flipped classroom model and a new voting model that's being used in colleges now to teach, where students have a problem that they have to solve when they come into the classroom, and they literally, they work in groups to solve it, then they vote on the correct answer, and then they discuss it, and they provide the reasons for that. And he presented his program at a regional conference this year at BOCES, which all districts in the area attended, and we're very proud of him, and he showed his video of his class. I don't know whether this will, well, I don't know if it's going to work. Where's the link?
Just double click.
What?
Just double click and it looked like there was a link.
Oh, really? Okay, let's hope. I need my,
Where's Matt Mello when you need him?
yeah, right now. How
And
do
on the image, I think there was a link. It had to give you a finger, but you got to do the slideshow.
Right.
And now, yeah, right there, it should activate it.
No,
Just click on it. One click.
no, it's not going to make it, I don't
No.
think.
No, it's pointing. That one you're quick.
Mike.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. It was there. Well, I'll have it on the website. But we're very proud. We're very proud of Mr. Mahoney for what he did, and I'll make sure the link works on the website so you can see his class and how he presented his work. Okay, so now questions.
Jeff, you're writing things down over there.
I was just writing things down. The point, all the additions here for science, are these in addition to the science additions that we're doing today? Are those a carryover, or are those being wiped and then replaced with these 0.2s?
You're talking about high school.
Those are earth science. We're adding more earth science
Oh, more
tonight.
earth science, yes. Well, we're not sure whether we'll have the need for the additional section next year. This year, we we had to add because we didn't have enough. We had, the classes were too large to do the kinds of things we're talking about here. We may even be able to use a teaching assistant in some of these, so, but we want to make sure we have it in the budget. to
And
be
that
able to
tied
offer.
into my next question. With the addition of teaching assistants, I guess, you know, the evolution of adding teaching assistants, it's almost, I mean, I could view it, or we could view it as a kind of an audition of sorts, becoming, when a slot opens up for teaching needs,
Yes.
that if these are certified teachers already, that type of thing.
Yes, for the for those, there are some who will be certified teachers, and some who will be aides who have reached the, have the additional training.
And again, I'm thinking specifically because of the ongoing science issue in this
Yes.
building of certifications that we don't have enough in certain areas.
Yes.
That we should be on the lookout for. to fill
Absolutely.
those types of
Yeah.
slots.
Yeah.
I have, oh, you want to go?
I'm done.
Let's
That's
go.
fine.
We can go back and forth if you want.
Fine, go ahead.
Jill, you seem to be calm, which is
It's
good.
early days,
But-
early days.
None of this is surprise conversation, obviously.
Right.
This is stuff we've been talking about, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I just want to be careful. Of course, we have a one-time savings with these
Right.
retirees.
Right.
And if we fill that whole savings with costs that are going to contractually increase annually beyond our tax cap, then
Right.
are we setting ourselves up for trouble several years down the road? If we're going to pursue these programs, I want them to be sustainable, and I don't want to be looking at, 4% increase in or
Right,
something
so,
down the road.
so, you know, the introduction to the IB program is a big one. And that is something I'll have to take, a look at the costs with the principal and with Dr. Wills as far as sustainability goes and what their hopes and visions are going forward for, continuing it. And the cost involved in that. So that part of this conversation is probably the more
It just-
concern I have about
The concern I have is
sustainability.
make a decision on
Right.
this later start time now,
Right.
and then if the analysis of the budget to get these other things yields us a nervous, tight situation that's going to, and you plug it into your 5-year projections, and it starts to look ugly 2 or 3 years from now,
Right.
I don't want us to look back and say, man, I wish we had done the IB program rather than the late start time.
Right, so you want
And
to
this is what
determine whether, what's
can do it.
what's the main thing and what are the things we want to be able to sustain and, and can we do them all or should we only do some of them? And I understand that, so, we can talk about that some more as we hear more presentations and as you guys make decisions on those things, but.
But weren't we planning on making the decision on the
on
later start team at the next meeting?
Later start, I believe we wanted to make a decision
January
by
19th.
January 19th.
Yes.
So it's just making me nervous seeing these
Yes.
other
I mean,
programs.
we, in theory, could push it to the February meeting,
Yes.
because there's, we're still playing with numbers, I should say playing with numbers.
And I know,
Coming up with numbers.
we start with broad stroke and numbers that you can kind of guess at, and they'll get tighter
Right.
as we make more presentations. I'm starting to get nervous.
But that's good. This is all food for thought, and that's why we
Right.
do this, so we can have these
Yes,
conversations.
and to be honest with you, I would not propose anything here. We would not propose something that could not be done. I wouldn't have brought it to this place if we didn't feel that we could do
Well,
these things. We wouldn't
No,
have
I get
brought
that,
it
But
here.
can it be, not only, I just want to make sure they can be
Yes,
done.
I understand.
5 years from now
Right.
as well as next
Well,
year.
I think
all.
that's the beauty of a lot of the work that Jill has done long-term. We're actually in a time when we're looking at staff movement. So there is a long-term, there is a long-term vision here, which is why I wanted to bring back this position now, because it is a time when your costs for your staffing will not be, as great year
Right,
to
'cause the-
year.
Meaning we'll have more retirements in 2 years and in
So
4 years. and
although
5
we
years.
have a lot of staff movement this year, and I understand your question, is, now is this a one-time? We have a lot of other staff movements that should be coming forward as well, going forward as well, because of the amount of time and the amount of seniority that all of that staff has at this point in time.
So it is a good time to, if we're going to do any kinds of, even with the tax cap that we have, which we're living under, and we would not bring here anything that would take us above that tax cap. But, you know, it is a time to seize, I hate to use the old expression.
Do not do it.
Do I
Don't
bear
do it.
back?
Don't do it. No, that's fine.
Take
But
advantage of the
anyway,
moment.
Okay,
at any rate,
Take this
the opportunities for our students, let's put it that way.
Well, and a retire in savings is not just a one-time. It's, you're replacing a teacher who's up here with a
Right.
teacher who's here, and those savings continue year after
Yes.
year.
Not if you fill them all with additional expenses that have annual increases. I mean, it just.
Well, we still have a
that
tax cap.
churn
We
is
can't
what
do
we
it all
count
at
on
once.
For maintaining a lower increase in employee costs, the churn in retirements and hiring new ones, that we
Right.
count on that.
But
And
there's only so much we can increase in
right,
budget to,
because
because of the cap.
contractually,
Yes.
the cost increases by more than
That's
the
right.
tax cap.
Right.
So that's why you can't fill up the entire savings one
Right, of
year
course.
and expect that to be sustainable.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
No, I know, well, I understand, and all these things are being mapped out at least 5
Yes.
years.
Right.
And there aren't too many more years you can look at that realistically, you know,
So many
when
things
you're
can
looking
change.
forward, because there's too many unpredictable things that can happen.
And the baccalaureate program, if that invites a lot of new people in, then we'll run into other increased enrollment
Contractual
costs
things,
as
yes.
well, right?
I get it.
All right, so this is the first of many conversations. Mr. Smith?
Just to clarify a couple of these, I noticed the Achievement Center, which I think has been going well. The report was, this was to increase that. Is that going to be a 0.2 increase, 0.4?
well, we're not sure at this point. Maybe Sandy can help with that.
Basically, at this point, we have it staffed for 5 periods a day. We have it staffed for 5 periods a day, but the more it's open, obviously, it allows us greater flexibility for students to be plugged in and get the support they need. But I would have to do the whole schedule and find out
we don't know.
where there are subject areas that might have a lower population that I could then use a teacher to help support that program.
So the goal to have it staffed the entire day?
Eventually, I don't know that we'd be there next year, but keep increasing it.
A little bit each year.
So I'm guessing that sounds like a 0.2 increase, or by what you're guessing there?
Well, I'd like to add a 0.2, but I could add more just by looking, once I do the schedule, at how the numbers fall in other areas.
That's why it's hard to be actually that accurate in terms of some of that. So I put a general number in, 2.5.
And I noticed the increase at the middle school in social studies and Spanish.
Yes, that's a 0.5 for each of those because
Right.
of the numbers.
And I was just, in my head, I was thinking, social studies and English classes, usually everybody who's taking one is taking the other. Maybe I'm missing something there, but are the English class sizes okay then?
Yes, it's because in the middle school you have social studies and reading. It's not the same number of sections.
Okay, all right, Thank you.
This is the start of many conversations.
Yes.
Is there anything else for now? And we can certainly look at the presentation and form our own questions. Okay, our favorite conversation of the year?
I took a preview of it. It looks pretty, all right.
Straightforward? I could only hope.
I don't want to.
What we're talking about is the calendar. The last 2 years, the calendar has been a challenge because dates have been very early Labor Days, early Jewish holidays, separate spring and Jewish holidays. There have been a lot of challenges, so we've had some long, lengthy conversations here about that. Let's see what this year brings.
Yeah, this year it's much more.
It looks more straightforward. I mean, Joe
Yeah, Labor
will
Day
probably
is the
find
4th.
some.
Right.
Thanks
Something
for
there.
annoying me about.
We have a superintendent's conference day on the 1st, so school for students doesn't start until the day after Labor Day, which people like. Really, there is, the February break where we're down to 2 days. We have a March Superintendent's Conference Day. And the Easter, the holiday, I should say, the spring break comes with both holidays, 2 holidays there. There isn't any issue around that. So really, it is.
This is the BOCES.
This matches
is
it
it.
exactly.
This is the, they haven't adopted it yet, but this is their calendar.
They want one more go-round on it.
Yeah.
And so we're not adopting it tonight
No.
either?
No, we're just
No.
looking at
Right.
it just to show you that it's,
This doesn't have a student impact at all, but just a thought of, because being a faculty member myself, having that superintendent's conference day be on the Thursday instead of the Friday, which would afford teachers the opportunity for a last
If-
hurrah
if-
long weekend.
if the teachers requested it,
Right.
I would certainly,
Oh, the 9th instead
Entertain
of
it.
the 7th, is that what you're talking about?
No,
The-
the
no,
31st
the
of August
31st.
instead of
We've
the
done that in
1st.
the last
okay.
few
So they have the
years.
Friday
we-
off.
I was looking at November. I
The
mean,
last few years, we have done the pre-Labor Day, they have been
But
the
they have
Wednesday or
had the
Thursday.
2 months off prior to that, so.
but also because of the, the days here, we were able to also have
Traffic
that
is
day
bad.
in Thanksgiving, that Wednesday again.
The only thing I see on here, it's a long slog from April 9th to June 21st.
Oh, it always is.
That's the only thing
Yeah,
I
it
see.
is, one day off.
Yeah, I mean, I always like that opportunity for the Friday Memorial Day, personally, instead of the Wednesday of Thanksgiving, but I know I'm outruled about that every year. But I don't see any other place to borrow from. We already have no February, or limited February.
I'll have the finalized BOCES calendar the next time.
Okay. Oh, that was pleasant. And now, we're almost at you, Sarah. Let's talk about our second reading for the policy that we started. And I know Natalie had done the presentation the last time about enrollment precautions and procedures. That was a requirement.
Yes, this is to ensure that we had requirements, procedures to ensure that our students who had a tendency to leave the building were protected. And it's simply language which we are required to have safety precautions. And so there's a training that goes with that. There's, and we've actually put in signals on our doors at the elementary school.
So we haven't made any changes from the last time. That was just
No.
our first reading. Okay.
And for those in the audience, there is a copy on the table over there.
And we received it in advance. Does anybody have any, I mean, it seems like it's terrible that there was a tragedy and a sadness that resulted, that needed this. This seems kind of common sense.
here, though.
No, anywhere. But it seems common sense, and any time we can talk about our needy and fragile students and help them in any way by a policy is a good thing. Okay, so there's no further discussion on that? All righty, so that's moving us to the reports. Sarah, student report, please.
Okay, so in the recent weeks, the students of PVHS have been busy trying to spread some holiday joy around the community. A small group of students from the band brought their instruments to Barnes & Noble's to play some holiday tunes for the kids and the customers, and I heard that that went very well. I heard that many of the customers actually were asking for the book fair information for our schools. They liked the music so much that they wanted to participate and buy some books from the book fair. The students from the Tri-M Music Honor Society, termed the Jolly Troubadours, also played some holiday tunes at Northern Westchester Rehab Center, Fields Home Floors, and Seabury Assisted Living Facility. The members of the National Honor Society generously bought toys to the Maria Ferrari Children's Hospital in Valhalla for the holidays, which was a very nice deed to do. Along with the music, we are very proud of two students, James Capozito and Maddie Barty, who performed in the play The Nutcracker at West Point, and they treated some of our students and faculty to from one of the scenes of the play, which I hear was very beautiful. And finally, the PVHS hosted the first alumni breakfast, and students from the class of 2016 met with past teachers and answered questions from the seniors regarding their college experiences.
Excellent. Our students are very, very busy in a lot of different areas. That's excellent. Do we have anybody from the PTA or PTSA? Okay, I know there were some successful fundraisers, including the Jets game from the PTSA and some other things this winter, so I'm sure they're busy. And Dr. Wills, Superintendent report.
So I just want to start by saying that we're very sad about the loss of one of our students, former
Class of
students.
2014.
Yes, last week. And I
New
was
Year's Day.
at the funeral home today, and his mother was very clear that she felt a tremendous amount of support from the school district. There were many teachers and others who came to see her, and we just feel terrible about this tragedy and want to share our sympathy for this family. This week we started a new program, which is called Anonymous Alerts. Everybody is aware of it, and it's a difficult program in that I've never really been that comfortable with anonymous reporting. But on the other hand, we have this situation with drugs and alcohol. We have these situations where students are in danger in various ways. We have students who have experienced bullying in schools, and we have responsibilities toward them. So we did institute this program, which is sponsored by BOCES, but it's quite general throughout the country, and there are several districts around us. Somers has the program for a long time. North Salem has had the program. Croton's had the program. And Putnam County is actually supporting the program in Putnam County because we do have this concern about students. So it's been a little difficult the first couple of days, fielding a number of reports. Not all of them are as important as others, or maybe as, in some cases, we had difficulty with investigation, but we have followed up, and I have to thank our assistant principals for their efforts. It's the middle school and the high school. The reporting has slowed down the third day, and but it's been difficult, and it's something new, and we have to work through it. We have to see if this is something that we want to continue. We'll try it for this semester, and we'll see if it's something we want to continue. But it is a way to be proactive. We've heard from in other places where you have situations that were not reported, and there were terrible consequences. So, as with all new things, we have to be a little bit careful and think about it and see whether it fits. But, we've started out, and a lot of work has taken place to see if we can work through this. I also wanted to comment that the middle school principal screenings will take place, the screenings of candidates, and final interviews will take place the following week. We have a 20-member committee, and we are screening a number of candidates from a very large pool of applicants, and we'll be doing that on the 10th. I talked about the later start and the schedule in the new educational initiatives report. We're going to be visiting a high school where there is a common lunch, which is one of the aspects of the new schedule that we're trying to develop. And actually, the schedule is very exciting. And what's even more exciting is that teachers are interested in this and see this as something that can be a plus for them, because there are some days where you have the same kind of periods we have now, but there are other days where you have a longer block. You'll have 2 periods together of a class. And a student wouldn't have all their classes on those days, the days when you have the longer blocks. So there's more opportunity for engaged learning in the classroom, longer projects, writing, and so on, and more time for students to have to study in between. More like sort of a quasi-college schedule, if we will. Not really a college schedule, but a little more sense of control of your classes. And this is something that is in the participation stage right now at the high school. And I will say this, that at the high school there's a great sense of excitement with the leadership there, and a sense of being inspired. And so this is very exciting, I think, for us. And if there are any questions about the later start, I'd be happy to answer them. We look forward to our choral and band concerts next week, and of course our musical is coming up. I mean, not yet, but there's a lot of excitement about Billy Elliot. We have a midterm exam schedule that's different this year, in that the exams are being given on Fridays. So students are in school, and this is a whole new approach, which gives students time to prepare. It's a different approach for the teachers. All teachers give an exam. And again, this is another way to promote rigor in our schools and promote a positive way to sort of separate these exams in a reasonable manner.
I'd like to have one comment / question. The proposed potential new schedule and the later start time are not mutually exclusive.
No.
And we may opt not to do the start time, but we are committing to a revised change in our schedule.
Yes.
Okay. I just, in case there's some unclarity.
It could be, in other words, it could be
Only the schedule and not the later start
Yes.
time, but the schedule is something that we seem very committed to.
I have to say
There we go.
that I have to say something, because this week I came very, very early to school to participate in the assemblies on anonymous alerts. So instead of my 5 o'clock wake up, I had a 4 o'clock wake up, and came in, and I experienced, because I do not come in at 7, I come in at 8, but I experienced the students coming in the dark, in the pitch dark. And it was like I was going to school at night. And it was a wake-up call for me. It is, that show that they have on MSNBC, Way Too Early. Maybe you don't see that show because you don't get up at 5, but that's way too early. It comes before Morning Joe or whatever. And it's way too early. That's all I have to say.
Well, imagine
That's
those
where
kids
we're
leaving
gonna-
Roaring Brook at 10 after 6.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
That's where we'll leave it for now.
Yes.
We have lots of thinking to do.
I mean, we've
before
done
the
a lot of
next
work on
meeting.
this, and, so the infrastructure, we are prepared with the infrastructure.
Sure.
That's all.
Okay. So for now, is there any public contribution on any of the agenda items?
I just want to bring something up on some of the reports.
Okay,
The,
sure, good.
They had the alumni reception or the alumni breakfast, but there's also going to be an alumni college night next week
Oh, that the PTSA generally sponsors, correct?
that they're going to come back with, I guess, tips or experiences with that for adults and
Right.
college-bound students. Because
Great.
I think the event last week was just for seniors. So they were not juniors
In terms
and
of the
sophomores.
prep of moving towards college.
So that's next week. I think it's Monday, I think, actually. I'm not sure. I think it's in the
And that's something the
library.
PTSA has done a number of years, or sponsored a number of years.
And on the later start, just, we were talking about You said infrastructure, you're figuring out infrastructure, you have that in place. I just want to make sure we're including specifics, so we have the number of clubs and the cross-population of clubs and athletics and the names, because we get attendance lists for clubs and names, how many kids are impacted by certain conflicts, and how many are riding that morning bus, just all those very specifics. And we talked about them before.
Yes.
Just want to make sure that those are on the docket to continue before we start making a final decision on that.
All right, so then, and there'll be opportunities for us to talk some more, but let's start and go right into new business. And I'll ask you, Mr. Farrar, to start us with number 1.
And I had to say, I think Ralph was in the office today, so I got number 1. That's longer than number 2. I'm just saying. Whereas the education law provides that the tax collector shall be relieved of responsibility for the uncollected portion of the tax list when a complete list of the delinquent tax items have been certified to the Board of Education. And since the collector has affixed an affidavit to such statement and has filed a statement accounting for the handling of the tax warrant, therefore be it resolved that the Board accepts the report of the tax collector as per document number 144/17 attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting, and having determined that the collector has accounted for the full amount of the tax warrant, direct that the lists of the delinquent tax items with the addition of the 2% penalty be certified to the office of the county treasurer and/or other enforcement officer. It is further directed that the tax warrant, tax roll, and the tax collector's copies of the tax receipts be placed on file.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 2?
Resolved to approve and authorize the superintendent of schools to enter into a memorandum of agreement between the PVFT for online distance learning programs as per document number 145/17 attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I have a question or comment. I like the idea that we're looking at these opportunities. And I know one of them we were talking about was for Latin, as a possibility. I still think we should be looking at encores in the middle school. For that, I know it's hard to find a Latin teacher, but I do know that, maybe since we're refreshing the middle school, we'll have new leadership at the principal position and vice principal position. Maybe they have contacts, or maybe they have new ideas on how to deliver something along those lines. So I think it's going to be more important that they have hands-on with Latin on that grade level than simply having the ability to do something remotely. So I'm just bringing it up as a piece of conversation.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 3?
Resolved on recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the resignation of Linda Rappaport for the purpose of retirement effective June 30, 2017, as per document number 146/17 attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments? I feel like I'm witnessing the end of an era, and I know that in May we will be honoring all of our, or in a later meeting, April, we'll be honoring all of our retirees, and we wish Linda and all of them luck. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 4.
Resolved on recommendation of the superintendent of schools to appoint Julia Coleman to a 4-year probationary term as an ENL teacher commencing on January 6, 2017 and terminating on January 5th, 2021 in the tenure area of ENL on Step 1 Masters of the PVFT salary schedule. Ms. Coleman holds English to speakers of other languages initial certification. In order to be eligible for appointment to tenure, said employee must receive at least 3 APPR ratings of effective or highly effective during the 4-year probationary term and may not receive an ineffective rating in the final year of probation.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I'd just like to mention that Julia is here, Julia Coleman, and she is someone who has done some wonderful things in her youth. I've indicated to the board that Ms. Coleman has traveled to a number of different countries where she has taught different people of different cultures. The Marshall Islands, that intrigued me. and also Thailand, I believe, and learned Khmer. And so her background in other languages is more than just the language. It's also an understanding of how to work with people of different cultures effectively. So she'll be a wonderful role model, I think, for our students as well.
And just as a point of clarification, I recently had somebody say, what's ENL? Didn't it used to be ESL or ESOL?
Yeah.
And I believe, and correct me, Ms. Coleman,
as a new.
it's English as a new language.
Yes.
Because, thank you, because so many of our students who are, it's not their second language, it could be their third language or possibly their fourth language. So for whoever asked her that question, I hope that clarified. Now, all in favor? Aye. Please come forward so we can shake their hand. Number 5.
Resolved on recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to appoint Joseph Mahoney to a 6-month probationary appointment effective January 9th, 2017 through September 8th, 2017 as a school monitor at the elementary school on step 1 of the CSEA salary schedule.
Second.
Questions or comments?
This is not the same Joe Mahoney you already
Who
employed,
is the
correct?
math teacher? No, it is not. Thank you. He cannot leave his math class and run to the elementary school. All in favor? Aye. Number 6.
Resolved on recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to appoint Christina
Nadru.
to a 6-month probationary appointment effective January 9th, 2017 through September 8th, 2017 as a school monitor at the elementary school on step 1 of the CSEA salary schedule.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving towards the consent agenda, number 1.
Resolved to approve consent agenda items 2 through 13 as presented to the board at this meeting.
Second,
Questions or comments?
we are approving the second reading of the policy on elopement and precaution and wandering and procedures, and that means if we approve it, it will become official policy. We're approving an overnight trip for the wrestling team to a tournament. We're approving the advisor for the middle school homework club. We're approving additional assignments for 4 teachers. A .10th for chemistry, 2 for earth science, both 2 tenths at the middle school, and 1 2/10 for the homework room. At the high school. We're approving a day without pay for a staff member, 4 days without pay for a staff member to attend to a family matter. We're approving additions to the substitute tutor list. We're approving a Family Medical Leave Act request. We're approving a budget transfer of $18,000 from our retirement fund, because we have extra money there right now, to the water and sewage fund to pay for the lead testing, which we've been doing. And we're approving a contract with the Somers School District to provide the health benefits for the 15 Putnam Valley students who attend Kennedy School, and this is something we have to do.
Thank you very much. Question, all in favor? Aye. Okay, I'd like to open it up for public comment to anybody in the audience or anybody on the board. Any other questions? Okay, so I'd like a motion to adjourn the work session and business meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Good night, everyone, and again, Happy New Year.